Welcome back. We're jumping right in with the Guard Your Savings podcast with Dolph Janis, the founder, insurance professional, and, of course, income strategist at Clearum Income Strategies Group. That is there in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can get in touch with Dolph and the team at guardyoursavings.com or click right over to clearincomeforlife.com. Either way, you're going to end up hooked up with Dolph and with the show and past episodes, which you can find on the podcast media page at clearincomeforlife.com, and you can also find on Apple and Spotify. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull, and Dolph, I hope everything's going well for you today. Hopefully sunny skies ahead, at least in the optimism space.
Oh, you got to stay positive. It's the typical Carolinas. You got 80 degrees one day, 2 days later, they're calling for snow and everything shuts down even though nothing happens. And it's just a whirlwind of let's get to spring, but you start seeing the tree buds pop out already, and we're in February. So it's just God saying his way is like, not so fast, my friend.
That's correct. And hey, isn't that a metaphor somewhere for how we approach planning and for our finances? In fact, in our past two episodes here, as we gear up for today's show, just on budgeting and spending, we talked about thinking on your own versus just being told what to do. And there's times where that works, times where each one doesn't. And then also the three buckets, basically, are three different strategies for portfolio diversification. So check those past episodes out on Apple and on Spotify. Of course, you want to get in touch with Dolph's group. Not only can you go to clearincomeforlife.com, but you can also dial them up 704-919-0149. Today, it's budgeting and spending. Dolph, I know you got some notes down. It's time to cook, brother. Well, how do you guide people through that conversation? Because I'm sure there's one way people are used to living, and then do they actually have to make big changes in retirement, or is the goal to plan your portfolio as such you don't have to make giant changes to your lifestyle once you go from your working phase of life?
Life is a journey, my friend.
Yes.
And it's a journey through many stages. You start your life out by growing up and learning. Then you start getting into the work field, and you start learning how to save, and you start educating yourself. Then you're working all these years. It's a journey all the way through life until that day that you would like to retire. And a lot of people, they chuckle about the death age is like 77 for men, 81 for women. And like, well, I'm going to work 65 years to enjoy 11 years of retirement. It's a journey. Your whole life should be and could be a retirement. If you look at it in the right ways of expect the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
And listen to your heart, listen to your feelings, listen to what you think is best for you and your family. And everybody else out there has their own opinion about what to do and how you should do it. But the person you're talking to, situation's different than yours. So when it comes to budgeting and spending, look at what yourself has. We have budget guides that we hand out complimentary on our website, or if you call, that can help you, show you how much you're spending. And I can easily say, Doug, over 75 to 80% of people that fill this sheet out for the first time and say, hey, how much you budgeting, how much you spending a month? They're saying, oh, let's just say 5,000. 80% easily are well over 5,000 and they don't even realize it. And it's hearing, but my friend Joe or my friend Bob or my friend Doug told me this. And it's like, well, tell me a joke, Doug. I mean, you could tell me a 20-second joke and I could laugh and laugh and laugh. And I said, now give me 10 people's names and I'll tell that joke to person one and he'll tell it to two and goes all the way back. By the time it gets to you, that original joke that you told me is something totally different. And it's the truth. And that's when you're looking at life is like, there's a lot of stages. I mean, there's a lot of road bumps, which nobody likes driving over road bumps. And speaking of road bumps and people when to drive, why is it so hard to use a blinker? I mean, it's on the car. I mean, it's like the mute button on your phone. It's not hard to hit the blinker instead of just turning left. Anyhow, get on one of those road rage rampages. I'm going to turn into a Karen someday because these people just don't turn left, put your blinker on. It's not hard. Say thank you.
You're talking to a guy that was a radio traffic reporter for 20 years, and I still have a traffic column in the Atlanta paper. I know all about what you're saying. So, yes, in Atlanta, it's probably even worse than it is in Charlotte.
Oh, probably your traffic's brutal. But where I'm getting off about not saying thank you for someone letting you in the lane or you just turn right out of nowhere, that's a speed bump. I mean, sometimes it just happens. You're not thinking straight, and a mistake happens, and you're like, oh, shoot, I should have used my blinker, or I could have said thank you to that person. It's like, oh, shoot, my company's going out of business. I'm losing my job, or Social Security is getting cut, or my pension's disappearing and defaulting, or the stock market just went down 5,000 points and I just lost 40% of my portfolio. So many intangibles. Are you prepared for those? So when you're budgeting your money, I don't care. I really, truly don't care. And it's a harsh thing to say how much money an individual has. That's not the important key. The important key is how much income are you producing for your money? Are you just relying on like 85% of people for Social Security for your main source of income, which we'll talk about that on another show? Or do you have money set aside for tomorrow and never? Today, tomorrow, and never. Very important to look at when you're budgeting your money. Do you have enough money to live on today for your spending habits? Do you have money growing to prepare to use for tomorrow for when you retire? And do you have that never money that's put aside in the back in case of a medical emergency or a home emergency? Do you have that money set aside? If you answer those questions properly and spend money wisely, I mean, it all flows together. And when things flow, it's like if you look at Seinfeld, the show of Seinfeld, one of my favorite shows, you look at those four characters. You look at George, Elaine, Kramer, and Jerry. They flow together. Every time they're in the room together, they flow. Now imagine when Newman comes in and it's just Newman and Kramer. It's not the same thing. It's still funny, but there's not the flow of conversation. Now imagine you put the Jeffersons in there with the Seinfelds. What's that show going to look like? I mean, they'll be looking at each other like, whatever. You put Tim Allen in there. Difference. It's not going to flow. A lot of things change within the whole thing, but you have the four different characters. Think about that as your retirement, not obviously as a joke, but as, is it flowing? Is it the way you want to? Are you getting to spend time with your grandkids? Are you getting to spend time with your wife? Are you get that budget? Do you need a home phone? Do you need the NHL network? Do you need HBO? Do you need all these extra things that could be saving you $10, $15, $20 here, $10, $20, $15 there? Well, Doug, last time I checked, there was 365 days in a year. If you save $1 a day, that's $365 a year.
Yeah.
Name one person in this world, anybody, who if you handed them a check for $365 on January 1st every year, wouldn't take it.
That's a great point. Now, let's talk about the needs versus wants thing, because I feel like that's a moving target when you're 45 years old and maybe your kids are still high school age or going to college. When you're 65 years old and hopefully your kids are adults and moved out of the house, right? How do you guide people through taking kind of that big 30,000 foot look at needs versus wants and how to budget differently, I guess?
Doug, I'm so glad you brought that up, because needs versus wants is a big thing when your whole life comes out there. I wrote an article for Forbes a few years ago saying the hardest day of your life is the day you retire, because changes happen. Every day turns into Saturday. But most importantly in that is you are now paying yourself. You are now your own boss. And that's now you have to decide when you're someone else, you're working and you're getting a paycheck and you're getting tips or whatever it is every week to pay for things. You're like, oh, I don't need that coffee latte with triple cream, but I want that coffee latte with a triple cream. And so you spend the $6, $7 on it because you know you're getting a paycheck. You can reimburse yourself and you can budget how much you're going to spend on coffee every week, just as an example, or a drink or a beverage or something like that. But when you're paying yourself, and now all of a sudden that money is like, do I really need that coffee when I can make one at home for 50 cents or less than that and enjoy it just as much? Because now that money's coming out of your own pocket. All this money you worked all your life for, you're now starting to pay yourself. And now you have to budget your money to last you the rest of your life. And that's the one question that is yet to be answered. I don't care who it is out there. They're trying to figure out the answer to this question. When am I going to go away? When is my life going to decease in this world? When am I going to die? I hate using that word, but it's true.
Yeah.
It could be, I have a client who's 100, just getting ready to turn 105 in about a month or two from now. And I have just clients in their 90s and their 100s. It's like you never know. Unfortunately, some people die early, some people die middle, some die late, but you've got to prepare for the inevitable. Let's just say you hope you live to 105. I think with medical technology, we can say, yes, getting more expensive, but yes, also getting better, that people are going to start living to 110 to 115 down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. So when you're looking in there and you're shopping or you're going on a trip or something like that, do you really need to do this or do you want to do this? If you need to do it, do it. If you want to do it, think about it a second time.
Yeah, it's all about putting some thought. Now, do you have and I'm putting you on the spot, Dolph, but do you have a story where somebody came in to Clear Income Strategies Group and talked to you or you talked to your team, and they were on one track, one path, one state of mind, and then a few short questions from you and the team got them thinking totally differently and maybe turn that boat around, so to speak, on that mini turn journey you talk about?
Well, I think we've got like several minutes left. I could go through a monster list of clients, and I'm not going to, out of respect for their confidentiality, I'm just going to use client A and client B came to me a couple years ago. Just as right before COVID, both were working well and wanted to retire in 6 years, the family dream. They've saved over $3 million, and they were just pressing everything, thinking, okay, I'm in perfect shape. And we started doing a budget guide, and I was like, how much money you guys spend in a month? And I was like, oh, maybe about 8 to 10,000. And they were stuck on that number. They were stuck on that number for about 4 meetings. Finally got them to the courage to fill out the budget guide that we offered them. I said, hey, go to the back, have a glass of tea, a glass of wine, be honest with yourself and fill this out. They were spending $23,500 a month, more than double what they thought they were doing. And when they were planning for them to retire in 4 or 5 years, they were saying, well, we need about $120,000 a year in income to keep our current lifestyle going. When in reality, they needed $250,000. And it was a wake-up call, because now that $3 million, they're saying, well, at this pace, we're only going to have enough money for about 14 years, and we're going to be, boom, we're done. We're not going to have any money left, and our lifestyle is going to change. So opening the eyes to their beholdenness, they were like going, wow, where do we go next? And so then we started chopping out, saying, well, you have a home phone. When's the last time you used a home phone? And they're like, well, it's just there for what, telemarketers? Are you sure you're paying $60 a month for telemarketers to call? And just stop sharpening it down and figuring it out and come into reality of spend what you need. Don't spend all this extra money. And that's where the client stories, when you sometimes the truth hurts and somebody doesn't want to hear the truth. But when they hear the truth and you put the numbers aren't going to lie to you most of the time, and put it in reality, say, hey, you're going to make some changes if you want to do this in 4 or 5 years. So times have gone by. They become a client. Like I said, like 99% of my other clients, they have 2 advisors. I'm the guaranteed person. The other person is the risk person. They decided what they wanted to have. Boom. So we set up an account to say, hey, here's going to be with Social Security. You're going to have $240,000 a year guaranteed income for life for both of you. No matter as long as you're living, this is guaranteed, the good old G word. And the other money you can use with the advisor, which they did. They are now retired 2 years earlier than they thought. And now they're traveling, doing everything they want to do, spending time with their kids in Texas and stuff. And it's one of my great feel-good stories, because when we have our events throughout the year, we have our cupcake cookie event for the 4th of July, sponsoring the USO, and then we have our second harvest pie giveaway for Thanksgiving every year. When I see these 2 individuals, IAB, they always come in, give me a hug, say, thank you, Dolph, for getting us our life to where we need to be, and we're enjoying it better than we've ever have.
I love that. That's a good way to put a pin in that story. Is they were on they had no idea how much money they were spending, or they way underestimated that. You asked a few questions, and then with some adjustments, they were able to achieve what they wanted there, and they thank you for it at least twice a year, if not more. So, Dolph, if somebody wants to have that first conversation with you, how do they begin that, and what else do you talk to them about?
As doing this over 21 plus years, my website, guardyoursavings.com, which we host the podcast, is linked to our normal website, clearincomeforlife.com. But if you go to the Guard Your Savings aspect, you're going to see a plethora of complimentary white pages, information. I mean, we have a book that I wrote, white papers I wrote, articles I wrote for got over 30, 40 different magazine publications out there, all for one thing, education, because we're educators first, we're advisors second. And it doesn't cost you anything to go there, click your name. We're not going to call you every day, say, oh, come on. I want to educate you, get the information and learn. Because if I can teach you something now, maybe I can help you with something out later.
Well, you get that conversation started, okay? At least a second opinion. You said a lot of times you're one of 2 advisors that people have because of the types of portfolio that you deal with. Go to guardyoursavings.com or clearincomeforlife.com. There's a contact button on clearincomeforlife.com. You can also get the links to all the other social media pages, including YouTube, that Clear Income Strategies Group has. And you can dial them up too, 704-919-0149, 704-919-0149, and get that conversation started. We're dealing with some fancy technology here, Dolph. I don't know if you're pressing hot buttons or if it's just the hand motions. People can't see this, but you just had confetti and hearts digitally fall all over you there. So that just shows what a great person you are and how much you're worth celebrating.
Hey, it's the joy of life. Wake up in the morning, be thankful for being here. Confetti should always be falling, not just because the wrong team won the Super Bowl, but it's a joy of life. That's what life's all about, is if you're not enjoying today, how are you going to enjoy tomorrow?
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, right mindset there. By the way, Dolph, you mentioned your book there. That is called Cross the Bridge to Retirement, Keeping Your Financial Future Stress-Free. Find out more about that at guardyoursavings.com, which clicks through to the firm's main page. Dolph, thank you so much for walking us through just a basic conversation. I know there's so much more to get into, the basic conversation about budgeting and spending, and I look forward to continuing to learn from you, sir.
Appreciate that, my friend. I love doing this. Like I said, I can educate one person a week. That's 52 people a year, and God take it. I love it. So take care and God bless and stay safe.
52 people a year, and then you have that $365 check you were talking about earlier in January. Who would turn either of those down, okay? All right, so again, go to guardyoursavings.com or dial 704-919-0149 to get in touch with Dolph and everybody at Clear Income Strategies Group. Of course, thank you all for listening to the Guard Your Savings podcast and to our producer, Alfred Romero, who always gets this thing published out. We'll have another episode coming your way here very shortly. You can find all the other ones on Apple, Spotify, and on the media page, guardyoursavings.com. I'm Doug Turnbull. He's Dolph Janis, the founder, insurance professional, and income strategist at Clear Income Strategies Group. And again, we'll have another episode coming your way here of the Guard Your Savings podcast shortly.
By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Randall Janis, North Carolina Insurance License number 8483456. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Dolph Janis is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Dolph Janis is licensed in your state, please call 704-919-0149.